Hey guys, welcome back to the Uncut. I'm excited as this is season 2 and my second episode here is with a dear friend of mine. Welcome, Abby Taylor, or as the world knows you as, Abigail Moss.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Guys, we have to actually share with humility. We thought we were recording and something happened with technology. So this is our round 2.
Just the warm-up one.
It is the warm-up one. Welcome to season 2 where everything just doesn't want to quite work. But here we are. But I'm excited that you're here. You know, international photographer. You're the business healer of Mind Body Free. And, you know, we go way back now already, like 15 years ago. We originally met in the wedding industry, obviously photographer, makeup. And we did beauty sessions too, because I felt like you find your people in the wedding industry where you're like, I like you. We should probably do some stuff together. So we created what were called like beauty sessions to empower and uplift other women. And it was a huge success. We were doing them at that time.
Yeah. And you always put women so at ease, which was a huge part of it. I love that.
You. Like it was the experience, right? Yeah. And, you know, I even have it in here that I did nudes with you at one point. Yes, I still have those photos. But no, this is great. We're going to kind of get into our episode here. But before we do that, I would love Abigail to kind of introduce herself, you know, and how you kind of made some shifts as to where you are today.
Yeah. So as mentioned, I'm a business healer. So I do coaching and healing for women who want to grow their businesses without burnout, and photographer. And yeah, we were chatting earlier about having gone through a journey of self-healing. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a big part of what helped me focus on helping other women kind of really find that alignment and wholeness within themselves. I'm moving forward from that place because I've tried doing it the other way and it does not end well. So if other people can avoid that pain, I want to help them do that.
Yeah. I feel like it's usually, our observations and experiences, right? That we're like, listen, if you can avoid all of this, let me tell you.
It'll save you so much time.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like, this is great too, because, you know, we were talking about before we were recording, you know, overcoming, you know, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue. You had Lyme disease, you know, autoimmune is a thing. Like, you know, it does exist. And now more and more people are starting to kind of come out and talk about things. But when you had Lyme disease, let's kind of go back in time a little bit about your personal story. Like, when you knew something was happening to your body and then that journey.
Yeah. So it really came to a head in one of our busiest years ever in 2019, where I had wanted to have a really busy year. I wanted to shoot a whole bunch, make lots of money, and I got exactly what I wanted, and it ended up making me really sick. And that was when I was forced to slow down because I couldn't physically get through a day without having to lie down and rest. I couldn't digest a lot of food. Most foods I couldn't have. And I just finally said, I have to figure out what's going on. And it took years to actually get a diagnosis and work on it the way I wanted to. But for the longest time, it was me being forced to rest and feeling guilty about resting and thinking I should be working right now, which is kind of a wild thing to think about in hindsight. But at the time, that was just my reality. That was just normal. I work. That's what I do.
And I think that's, you know, boils down to, you know, us here on this continent, again, I don't even say country, I'm like here on the continent, you know, our identity and our value is wrapped up in everything we do, right? So to feel guilt is definitely like common. A lot of people do struggle with that. But I think for you, you've had a couple eye-opening because your body forced you to stop, but then you were reminded just on this recent trip to Italy, explain that culture and what you felt there.
Yeah, so we were teaching in Italy, and our host is married to an Italian, very involved in Italian culture, and we were out having a drink on a patio, just looking over on these beautiful historic buildings and everyone walking around. And he was explaining that the lifestyle in Italy between 12 and 2 every day, people stop working and they either go home and rest or they go out and they have a coffee and they just enjoy a slower pace of life. And when I was looking around and watching people, we were out late one night having wine, and there's people walking around and drinking, and everyone's so calm. There's no one throwing things or yelling like you'd find in downtown.
No
Calgary.
chaos.
No chaos. Like, it's very,
No shopping carts.
no, it was just very peaceful, and like people take care of each other. It's very
Mhm.
family oriented, and it's very much a culture that values beauty and joy. And you can definitely see it in the way that they live. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, I mentioned like have reverse culture shock coming home. It was like, oh wow, it feels different here. Like the energy and the vibe of like do.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels very different.
Yeah, that hustle and bustle.
Mhm.
I was on Global News yesterday, and that is kind of what the journalist asked me too. She's like, "Can you expand a little bit more on hustle culture?" And I'm like, "Yeah, everyone's part of it,
Mhm.
but you only know what you know." And this goes back to our conversation before. Like everyone knows my story with Aaron passing away. That created the catalyst of how do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend it with? And not feeling like you need to kind of mold into how everybody works over here.
Mhm.
Creating that own like safe space to be able to work as you
Mhm.
see fit, right? And some people might look at you as like that's a little different, or maybe you're delusional, but you know what, it works. I think I'd rather be delusional than like following like what everyone else says you should be doing or how you should be working, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we need to make money to pay for all the things we like and blah, blah, blah. But that was like, for me, pretty much like these last like 16 months is no longer wanting to participate in anything hustling, and then understanding too that it's okay to say no to things, not have to like rush into a bunch of things too, and everything can move just more at a methodical pace. Like I've actually subtitled my 2025 as like, I'm slow burning.
Yeah. And there's so much value in that. Like something that I like to teach and practice myself is sometimes you can work less and do more.
Mhm.
Like if you take time to slow down and create space to be with yourself and listen to yourself and what you want and discover what that is, then you start moving in a direction that you really want to be in. And you're no longer push, and all of these different things pulling you in different directions that may not even be where you want to go. And you can actually do a lot less things and actually get a lot further when it's really focused and clear of what it is you really want and where you want to be going. And when you're clear in your mind and your body and you've rested, we're so much more. And I know this is not about productivity, but ironically,
But it
we're
is
more productive when we rest.
I totally agree, because I'm like, this is interesting. I felt like I was saying this on the weekend. For some reason, we feel like our productivity over here needs to always have an outcome.
Mhm.
Maybe there's not an outcome. Maybe that's just what the journey is. It's just like, moving from like kind of one speed, slowing down to the next,
Yeah.
and being content with that.
Yeah.
Not always thinking you have to keep striving, keep working hard, or you're feeling antsy, like there's all these like things that start to come. And as you said too, like the word push is a word I use often a lot too. And it's associated usually with panic, right?
Yeah.
Like if something's not in your control, then what do? We start doing like things that are maybe not so necessarily great for us, and in return maybe for our career and our business. I'd like you to expand a little bit more on that, because we're talking a little bit more about that alignment and not being balanced, right? Like maybe there's certain tasks you don't need to do. Like that was me. Hire people, Trita.
Yeah.
The money will come. It'll figure itself out. So hire the people, so you don't have to worry about that part. You can focus like where your strengths are over here. Maybe expand a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually working with a client on this right now, just helping.
Of course you are. It's just him.
I'm helping them to feel safe, trusting others to support them in their business, and being able to give themselves permission to like really do the work that is like the deep focused work that's going to move their business forward, instead of all of like this email, that email, all of these things that rushing around to get done that are like a million little interruptions and different things you can't go as deep with. And so I think a lot of it is just having the awareness of what's going on. I think we're running in all of these, I like to call them operating systems, like the way we see the world, the way we feel things are supposed to be. So if I believe that work is hard and I have to work hard to make money, I'm going to create a business and situations that prove me right. But if I can start changing that narrative of, Work is a place of flow, of creativity, of ease. I'm supported in my business. I'm supported in my life. I get to focus on what I love and what I'm best at and let others help with the rest. Then we can create a life and a business that makes that a reality. And so when you shift those inner narratives, you can shift our whole world.
Oh, resonating with us 100%. Because I was like that too, right? As I was saying, like somewhere between 2022, 2023 was very chaotic. And I'm like, why am I going back to that? I don't want any part. And that was me too. I was like, no, let's create something that's nourishing, yummy.
I like that.
Right?
Yummy.
Yeah, something that's yummy, right? And I like how you're just kind of wording that. It's just, what do you actually really need to do to kind of move that needle? And already just claiming success in your heart and your mind, right? So you probably do a lot of, I don't want to call it manifesting. I feel like that word just gets kind of loosely tossed around. But we'll call it manifesting for the sake of this episode. And I assume you probably help them with like, their affirmations and manifesting, like kind of creating and visualizing.
Yeah.
Where are they going? What do they really need to work and focus on?
Yeah, it's a lot of like really connecting with their unconscious mind and their soul and their vision for what they actually want their life to look like. Because a lot of people I work with, they don't actually know. They just have been living out of this place of obligation for so long to try to do what they think they should be doing. And then they get there and they realize it's not what they actually want. And so I help them find out what that is, because everybody knows, like you all know what it is you want. It's just a matter of accessing that within you, underneath the layers of what I should be doing, what I'm allowed to do, and giving yourself permission to really find and listen to that. And then everything really changes and lights up, because there's this intense momentum that builds up when you know what you want and you believe you're worthy of having it and you move towards it. So then that's the second piece, is really holding all of those feelings of not being able to have what you want with a whole lot of love, so they can be processed and released from the body. That's where they're stored.
Yeah.
And that's like 85% of the work, is just allowing yourself to feel and release that stuff. And then the other side of that is, all of a sudden I know what to do. It's like, if you feel stuck, then be with that feeling of feeling stuck and send it a whole lot of love and feel it in your body until it's been processed out of your body. The other side of that is of course, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. And that I actually feel I can resonate with too, because as I said, I had the opportunity to slow down following Aaron's passing, and that's just what it was, to be able to sit. And I'll be honest, I feel I've have, what's the word I want to say, like, well, grief, but there's also loss in like so many different areas of our lives as we kind of grow, right? So that we hang on to that trauma, we hang on to the yucky things that maybe we shouldn't be hanging on to anymore. But then there's this other side of grief, if it is attached to death, that's a whole different journey. That's definitely a process, but it's also moving through some of the yuckiness and being okay to be like, okay. And then all of a sudden, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a book. That's literally was like my biggest thing. And I've been thinking about a book for like a long time. And then was like, no, I need to talk about things. And I feel like that's what helps people too, right? You probably see that too.
Absolutely. There's so much feeling
and that release.
Yes, absolutely. The processing and the speaking and the releasing and the feeling, all of that. I know loss and grief are really difficult things to feel, but when you let yourself feel them, the other side of that is the next step. Knowing what you're meant to be doing.
Oh, I think this is like absolutely amazing. And it's, there's something about it too, being in a place where you're able to, now that you have gone through, your own personal transformation, healing, recognizing, so we don't kind of slip back to like, oh, right, remember that didn't feel so good. Let's not go there. You have like almost like a different set of boundaries. It's like just holding yourself accountable to say, okay, this is what I need now moving forward. And then how can I also work and find those types of clients? I think you should expand on that, because I too like work with a little bit more of beauty professionals where they've been in the game for a while. Sometimes they feel stuck because we get stuck on like, I need to have all these fancy things. I need to have all this tech. I need to have all these tools in place, which yes, creates and streamlines stuff. But it's also just doing some old-fashioned work. Like, how do you find the right clients that align also with you?
Yeah.
Because some clients can be an energy suck, let's be honest, right? We learn from that too. Wedding industry.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But you know what I mean? So yeah, with you, when you were like, hey, this is what I'm going to do to help others, what are some, share like 1 or 2 tips that you do with yourself so you're, attracting the right clientele?
Yeah, I think it's getting clear on who I really want to support
Yeah.
and speaking to that in my messaging and in my marketing. And there's a practical sense. Like I want to help women. I want to help female business owners. I want to help healers and coaches. They really resonate with me. And then personality wise, I feel like if people aren't ready to do the deep inner work, or they aren't ready to face themselves or really get what it is that they actually want, they're going to run a million miles from me, because I'm a catalyst that's going to change things so fast for them. And they're going to sense that. I'm like, I have to go as far as possible. It's okay. You're not ready. That's fine. Yeah. Because when we work together, we go deep and we really move things and change things.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is just allowing yourself to feel safe with the change and for it to be okay to change. Because like you mentioned, the grieving, we can get attached to what we have and even the struggle unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And so letting yourself let that go can be a grieving process as well.
Oh, I love this so much. And I think that's just what it is, There's a lot of like trauma things we hang on to, careers, past relationships, our childhood. I mean, that could be like a whole like thing in itself, right? And yeah, as you said, it's just like learning to unpack. But I think a lot of the things have probably happened when we were in our 20s. Even in high school, I don't know about you, was it always just like very goal oriented and you have to check off all these boxes to be accepted to go somewhere and blah, blah, blah. Like there was this constant drive. And I was like, I don't know if I want to. And all I made it as far was like college for 1 year. And I'm like, I'm good. I'd rather just like learn differently and do things differently. Do you kind of remember like that beginning as adult?
I think it was for me, my 20s, I had a lot of fun and I played a lot.
Yeah.
For me, it was my divorce with my ex-husband.
Ah.
And I think I processed that with workaholism. I was like, I'm just going to grow a really successful photography business. I love it. I'm excited about it. I'm going to work all the time and do all of this extra work I don't need to do. That's not.
Yes.
And so I made myself busy, essentially.
Put everything underneath the rug and we'll just keep on going.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how to process these feelings. I'm going to work.
So that was your kickoff.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you probably came around at some point. Well, then it's hard to say, right? Because then you end up with Lyme disease. Like it's really hard to sometimes really pinpoint, but you probably look back, like I know I do, where I'm like, oh wait, there was kind of like a repeated pattern there. And maybe that's what kind of just, started to build up on, with the body just suddenly breaking down and doing things, right?
Yeah, it was a few things. I had worked with plant medicines to heal some depression, and that really started me on the path of learning to become a healer and a coach and help others. But there's a part of me that hadn't really fully listened, and I was still pushing and grinding in photography. And that was when my body said, like, hey, we can't do this anymore. You need to learn these lessons now.
Yeah, like we're done now.
We're done. Yeah, you were done now.
I was me in 2023. All of a sudden, I just had like a random shoulder injury. I'm like, what did I even do? And it's just, that's how the body starts telling you.
Yeah. And it's amazing how long our body will let us push for before it finally says, look, you can't anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's this is like good stuff. No, I like this. And those of you listening, I think a lot of takeaways here is, I always say this, you first. And it's okay to pause. I mean, we both said the same thing too, like allowing yourself permission, resting, not having to be running around. I guess what's one little last tip you'd like to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I think the gold is in the pause, and it's in really relishing it and checking in, like, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling in my body? And, am I doing the things that are the best things for me to be doing, that I would want to be moving forward in? If I imagine myself in 5 years getting what I want, is it going to make me happy? And so those kinds of questions can save you a lot of time, a lot of tiredness, and they can just really help you begin digging in even more to the clarity of what's really, really good and yummy for you.
I like that. I just used the word yummy.
I like good stuff and yummy. I like that.
I love it. I think this is fantastic. Well, thanks for jumping on today and sharing a few fantastic little insights. I think this is great. And to those of you listening and joining us today, thanks so much for being here. Continue to walk in good faith, and we'll chat with you all soon. Bye.